Hi, everybody, and welcome back to GABL. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Don.
Today, we're bringing you another show. This one's going to be a little bit different. This one, we're talking about doping and sports.
Doping and all kinds of different things. Yeah, it's going to be very
steroids,
unique.
to be more precise, or performance-enhancing drugs.
That's the better way of putting it. PEDs.
It's more... That sounds better.
I think so.
Doping.
Yeah, it doesn't have the best feel or sound. So, well, I guess... You know, we usually start these with a little bit of trivia.
Oh, really?
And so since we were talking about PEDs or performance-enhancing drugs, I do have a quick bit of trivia for you.
Okay.
And that is in the sport of cycling.
Mm-hmm.
The sport of cycling.
Yes.
When is the first, do you know when the first known case of drug use for performance-enhancing drug use in the sport of cycling?
When was the first case, who was the first person?
When was the first case? What year?
Okay, so cycling has been around for a long time, I would imagine. So I'm just going to guess 1985.
Try 100 years previous.
Whoa.
1886.
Wow.
Is the first known case of somebody, this cyclist, used a blend of cocaine, caffeine, and sorry, I cannot say the word, strychnine.
Oh, so he was drinking Coca-Cola in the early days.
And it helped him win the race. Although he ended up dying not that long after this.
From an overdose.
From an overdose,
oh,
yes.
I called it.
Yep, you did. But it's amazing to me that this whole PED goes all the way back. The use of these go all the way back to 1886. That's the first known case. Of course, this is cycling. We're going to talk about a lot of different sports, arenas.
So what happened to him? Did they strip him of his title? What happened?
No, it was actually very accepted at the time.
What?
Yes, 1896, 1897, 1904, 1911. These are all times and cases where somebody was caught doping.
Wow.
And so in the 1930s, the acceptance of drug taking, or PEDs, was so prevalent that the Tour de France was basically, in the 1930s, it was a part of the rule book that reminded riders, quote, drugs will not be provided by the organizers.
Oh, bring your own drugs.
Bring
is what
your
they were
own
saying.
drugs.
Is another way to look at that statement.
Exactly. That was in the 1930s regarding the Tour de France.
Wow.
So back then, it was a common practice. It was 100%. Everybody did it. It was expected that it would be done.
Yeah.
And all of the records that were at that point were all based on these riders riding their bicycles full of PEDs.
That's crazy.
So, anyways, I find that you have cycling, and I know we're going to get more into track and field, but track and field. Do you have any idea when the first case of track and field doping was discovered?
Okay, since I was 100 years off the first time, I'm going to guess 1890.
Okay. Now you're off 100 years the opposite way.
1990.
1981, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
1981 was the Soviet Union, the Soviet Nunu Abanzi. He was caught doping PED, using PEDs in 1981. So this doping thing has been around for some time.
So in 1981, so this is way more recent. What was done with him? Now, was this, at this point, were drugs looked down upon, or were they still saying, hey, the organization is not going to provide you with the PEDs?
No, at this point, it is now looked down upon or frowned upon. Yes.
Okay. And was he kicked out? Was he suspended? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay.
My research didn't tell me.
That's okay.
So, yeah. So it's funny to me how that the athletics have changed. And they say that, and I know we're going to talk more about baseball, but baseball, in the 60s, they were using drugs. In the 70s, they were using drugs. Before that, they were getting they were using a bunch of alcohol. And one famous player I don't remember this particular person's name. In my research, I read it and I forgot to write it down. But he threw like a no-hitter or some kind of special game, and he was completely drunk.
Whoa.
So it's amazing to me how the prevalence of drugs and doping and performance-enhancing drugs have been in sports for a long, long time. And I know that kind of brings us to...
So, yeah, it brings us to later on when we're going to talk about baseball is the very well-known scandal. I didn't know it was so well-known. Because I'm not really into sports. I don't follow sports. But when I did found out about this Balco scandal, it was crazy to me.
Yes.
So Balco was started by this man. His name was Victor Conte. Victor Conte, before he was involved with athletes, he was started out with a small herbal natural business where he would sell supplements to people, and he opened up a store in San Francisco with his wife, and together they would just sell what he called ZMA, which was like this supplement, right?
Okay, and wasn't he like completely self-taught?
Yeah. So he dropped out of college, and he's like a self-taught scientist. He just loved to read about sports and health and nutrition, and he came up with this zinc and copper thing that you take, a supplement you take, and it would help you recover, it'd help you sleep better, and all these different things that he claimed.
Okay. So it's basically like a vitamin supplement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure supplements are not regulated, so it's funny because I heard a comedian say, the Twinkie is FDA approved, but supplements are not, right? So take that for what it's worth. So he's making these supplements and without proof that they work. And unfortunately, he didn't sell enough, so he had to close down his store in San Francisco.
Okay.
And at some point later on, he gets this fancy machine. It's called an ICP.
Okay. And wasn't that machine like $250,000 for the machine or something?
It's like $250,000, something like that. And it's called the ICP spectrometer. And he could use it to check blood, check hair, check urine for use and see what is present in the blood.
Okay.
And for example, if an athlete had low copper levels, that was evidence that athlete was taking some sort of performance-enhancing drug.
Okay.
So what he did with this ICP was he learned that, okay, if someone's taking performance-enhancing drugs, they have low copper levels. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is test his blood, give him a copper supplement, test him again until his copper level looks normal. Now you can't tell when he's tested because it's not going to show up as low copper levels now because he supplemented it.
Yes. Okay.
So he used, in essence, that's the way he used the ICP spectrometer, was to not drug people, but give them the performance-enhancing drug, and whatever abnormalities it brought about in their blood, he would counter it with another supplement to make their blood appear normal.
All right. Now, doctors do this quite a bit, don't they? If there's
with
something...
symptoms,
with symptoms.
So in the same vein, so they give you something for a headache, but let's say it causes high blood pressure. Then they give you medicine for high blood pressure as well. It's a little different. They're treating symptoms, right?
Yes, and they're doctors.
Right.
Yes.
And these are people that actually went to school and graduated, right?
Yes,
exactly. Not this guy that failed, right? So... And also in the medical community, they say treat the symptom, not the disease, which is very odd when you think about it. But there's some cases when that's not true. I don't know why I'm talking about medical stuff, but you got me started on it. Like, for instance, when a baby is born, if they're jaundice, that's a case where they don't treat the symptom because most of the time the baby's asymptomatic other than the skin color.
Yes.
But they treat the number. In this case, they treat the disease, not the symptoms.
Got it. Okay.
So there are those cases where you do treat the number, and jaundice in babies is one of them.
Okay. So that was basically what he was doing, was he was treating the number,
yes,
not the symptom.
For the purpose of them passing drug testing.
Got it. Okay.
So the problem was he had a hard time getting people to sign on because he didn't have any credentials, right? But he was very clearly spoken and was an excellent salesman. Everything he said it with confidence, and people really tended to believe this guy.
Yes, which is that might be another show for another time. But the difference that confidence makes in speaking. Yeah. So you are more apt to listen to somebody who is confident and doesn't know what they're talking about than if it was somebody who knows what they're talking about but doesn't come across confident.
Yeah, so on that topic, real quick, so we'll take a little side road here. If when I used to work with, I had few employees that did these installs at people's homes, and I would tell them you have to appear to the customer like you're very confident.
Yes.
When you're doing the work, say, "Oh wow, this is beautiful. This is great. This is going to be excellent. Learn to use these words. That way, when there's an issue, the customer realizes, oh, you know what? So-and-so, he did a good job on the install. I remember him saying that this was perfect.
Yes.
So it must be an error on my end. As opposed to if you're in someone's home and you're not confident, and the moment the customer sees a hiccup or a problem with their technology, whatever they're working with, they're going to say, oh, that guy that was here, he wasn't too sure. He must have done something wrong.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that
always appear as the expert.
Yeah, and that's
it's not putting on a false facade.
No.
If you're not an expert, don't portray yourself as an expert.
Yeah, don't be dishonest, of course.
Exactly. But there is a confidence that when you portray that confidence, it breeds confidence.
Yes, and it puts other people at ease.
Yes.
And you just want to be honest and be, if you don't know, then learn, right?
Exactly. Yes. So, okay, so he was Victor Conte was extremely confident. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So people tended to believe him. And this is how he grew his, excuse me, I got something going on.
He's got a frog on his throat. I mean, hey, folks, shout out to the frog that's in Jonathan's throat right now.
Yeah, it's really putting a damper on what I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was really confident, and this is something that would get him his first couple clients.
Okay.
So still, because he didn't have the reputation and he didn't have the education, what he decided to do was do it in exchange for a sponsorship. He would tell the employee, this is what I'm going to do for you. I am going to test you. And he would, for instance, he had his first client come in and he tested with low copper levels, which is a sign of he was taking steroids. And that's when we don't know for sure, but we think this is when he decided, you know what, I'm going to help this guy. And he says, listen, if you're going to take steroids, you might as well do it right. I can make it look like you're not taking steroids if you follow my plan.
Okay.
So he did. So Victor Conte constructed this plan where he would give this guy medicine or supplements to make his blood levels look normal.
Okay. Now, at this same time, and I know we're going to get more into this, but at this same time, we're talking about baseball, correct? Or are we talking about track and field?
Baseball.
Okay, baseball. That's what I thought. In baseball, the MLB or the national organization that controls baseball, they did not have an anti-doping.
They had the least stringent testing out of any major sports organization.
So basically, they were not completely in word. If you would have asked them, they probably would have said, "Yeah, we're not for it." But by their policies, you could tell that they didn't completely frown on it.
Yeah, so there's like supplements like Andro, which is a steroid. It was banned it's banned in the Olympics. It's banned in other major sports, but it was not banned in baseball.
Okay.
So they didn't even test for it. So that's another thing. If it wasn't banned, they didn't test for it.
Yes.
So people could be taking Andro all day in baseball.
If you're not testing for it, you're going to be okay. So they weren't testing for these things. So he gets his first client. He basically says, if you're going to do it, let's do it right.
Do it right. So he does. He does it right. He gives them.
And there again, it's not banned.
No, it's not. It's not banned. So
it's not banned. So he's not doing, technically at this point, he's not doing anything wrong.
Illegal, I suppose.
Illegal, I suppose. I mean, morally it's wrong. Ethically it would be wrong. But according to their laws, it's not completely
right.
Wrong.
According to the standards
of
this
the
particular
MLB
organization.
Got it. Okay.
So he gets his first client, and what he does is he decides to say, okay, he has his business model, and his business model is, here's what I'll do. I will get some major athletes to take actual steroids, and I'll make them appear to test clean, and in exchange, I'll have once these major athletes are at the top of their game and they're winning competitions, I will have them sport hats with my logo, and so people will buy my supplement.
Got it.
So he has this perfectly legal supplement that he makes and sells, right?
Shout out to energy drinks because it sounds exactly like Red Bull's marketing plan.
Yeah, very similar.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So he gets these people and he doesn't take money from them, right? These guys are going to win millions if they win these competitions. And Victor Conte just says, just wear my hat that says Balco on it, so people will know about my brand, and then when they want to perform well and look like you and play ball like you, they will buy my supplement.
Got it.
Now they're not. People don't know, but they're not buying the ICP specific to this person steroids. They're buying absolutely legal copper and zinc and whatever the natural supplement he's selling them.
Got it.
But people don't know that, so they just see the brand. They see the marketing. Oh, I want to play ball like that guy. So I'm going to take Victor Conte's Balco supplement.
I wonder how many times, and this is, here again, we're taking a side trail, but I wonder how many times successful businesses, and I'm not saying they're right in their cause, but successful businesses follow that exact marketing strategy. That basically they take their product and they put their product on the best of whoever, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's a star, whether it's a sports star, whatever. If you research Nike, and I know we're going to be getting into Nike more here soon, but when you get into Nike, they did the exact same thing. They take their product, they put it on the greatest person in that industry, and then it just takes off.
So are you saying it was unscrupulous in the fact that the best guy, the all-star, got like the top of the line Nike, but to the general public, they're selling like stuff that's outsourced to other countries and not made as well?
No, I'm just saying no, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're just saying
I'm just
about
saying
the aspect.
as a marketing aspect, that's there are a lot of successful companies that's how they have created such a great scheme of marketing. A marketing strategy would be the better word.
No, I don't know if it's a scheme because isn't
that's
most
the wrong
marketing,
word.
I'm pretty sure how it works is most marketing is like brand awareness.
Yes.
So if someone says, like Rocket Mortgage, if they're advertising a lot, you hear that name a lot, and then you have a friend saying, I don't know who to go with, and then you're thinking, oh, well, I don't know either. Wells Fargo, they give loans for banks, and then someone mentions Rocket Mortgage, like, oh, yeah, I've heard of them, and because you've heard it so often, you think, oh, that must be a good company because I'm familiar with it. So marketing is to make you familiar with a brand.
Yes.
Familiar and therefore comfortable.
Or buying into your likes or dislikes, such as if I was a rabid football player and my favorite football player was wearing a brand of cleats.
Oh, I see.
When I go to buy a brand of cleats, which brand am I going to buy? I'm going to buy the brand of cleats that my favorite player wears.
Yeah, I see.
If I can afford them. And I think that's what a lot of companies have done, not just sports companies, not just apparel, but there's a lot of companies, Pepsi for one, when we talk about Coca-Cola and Pepsi, what did Pepsi do?
They endorse pop stars.
They endorse these pop stars, and if a pop star, Britney Spears and Michael Jackson, they were drinking a Pepsi, and people that idolized those people thought, oh, if Michael Jackson is drinking a Pepsi, then I want to drink a Pepsi.
Right.
And so I think that this brand of marketing that Victor Conte did with Balco is very used in many industries, putting your apparel or your product name on the stars and letting them represent and see what happens from there.
Well, it works for these guys. It worked for Coke and Pepsi. It worked for Balco because he started selling a lot of his he called it ZMA.
Okay.
He called the supplement ZMA, and once he started building his portfolio, which was mostly word of mouth, right? This guy suddenly started performing really well, and they would say, hey, who's your coach? And he would say, oh, Victor Conte. He'd send other athletes over to Victor Conte.
Mm-hmm. So, so he gets his first star. That first star, that was Bill Romanowski.
Yes.
And he played football for the Denver Broncos.
Okay.
Yeah, so Bill Romanowski played football, so he pulls him in. All right, and then where does it go from there?
Well, he starts getting people in track and field, and one of his clients is a very famous runner, and her name is Marion Jones.
Okay.
Marion Jones, and this is like a really long, drawn-out thing because Marion Jones was a phenomenal runner. She, as an interesting story, when she was only 8 years old, she lived in Los Angeles. I don't know if she lived in Los Angeles, but she was at the Los Angeles Olympic Games.
Okay, 1984.
Yes. And she was 8 years old watching the games, and she saw the track and field.
Can I take a sideline note
Sure.
real fast? I have seen the torch that they used to light the fire for the Olympics, the torch of the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen that actual torch, the one that was used in the 1984 Olympics.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, okay. Sideline note, moving on.
Yeah. So she saw the track and field, and at 8 years old, she decided, you know what? When I get older, I'm going to be in the Olympics on track and field. And her dream was to be a gold medalist at 8 years old. So she started running every day. And by the time she was 12 years old, she was already outperforming all the other kids in her school. And it wasn't long. I think she was about 16 when she started shattering all the records for the entire United States for the fastest girl on track and field.
Okay.
And then eventually, she did get into the Olympics with the help of Victor Conte. And she denied using performance-enhancing supplements.
Okay.
But later on, we found that it wasn't true. It was a very drawn-out ordeal. But Victor Conte did give her the supplements. She tested clean in the Olympics, and she won 4 gold medals.
Oh, wow.
Which is
Okay.
incredible.
But there again, using his performance-enhancing drug that basically, when you got a low level of copper, it would bring your level of copper
Yes,
up.
he would give you something to bring your copper up. If your testosterone levels were low, he would give you this, what he called the cream. It was testosterone cream to bring your testosterone levels up so everything looked normal.
Okay. All right. So so Marion Jones is running. She's taking this. She wins 4 gold medals. And then take us to the next step of kind of where this...
Well, people are starting to suspect something goofy is going on, right? Because now he's becoming popular. He's having lots of people in his clientele, and he has them on his website where they say, hey, I take ZMA and I'm a gold medalist, right? So this was really good advertising for him. He starts selling ZMA like crazy, and he draws a lot of attention of other athletes. He gets a large portfolio of athletes, and that's when he starts to get investigated because people suspect that he's dealing steroids to these guys.
Okay. So he starts being investigated. Now, from my understanding, the first investigator was not the FBI.
Nope.
It was not Drug Enforcement Agency.
Right.
It was not a local police department. Wasn't the first investigator an agent with the Internal Revenue Service?
That's right.
Okay.
It sounds really crazy.
It really does.
But this
Okay.
Internal Revenue Service agent, his basis for his investigation is, hey, this guy is, people come under his umbrella, and then all of a sudden they're top performing athletes. What is going on? So he starts going through Victor Conte's trash. He stages, or every Monday night he would go out right before the trash man came, take all the trash, all the paperwork, take it to a nearby business parking lot, middle of the night, go through everything, take out everything that he thought was relevant to his investigation.
Okay.
Anything that wasn't relevant to his investigation, he would throw it into some random dumpster and he would move on.
Wow. And how long did he do this? Any idea?
He did this for 2 years, I think it was. He's just going through this guy's trash.
Wow. So every Monday night, he became a trash digger.
Yep.
Okay.
He was dumpster diving, that's right.
Dumpster diving. Oh, yeah.
And eventually he found a piece of paper that with Barry Bonds' name on it and some
okay.
other athletes. And he also found these all kinds of discarded pill bottles with substances in them. And he would send them to get tested, and people didn't know what they were.
Oh, that's right, because he had struck up a friendship with the head of the UCLA hospitals, their science lab.
Yes.
And so that man was on the side doing all these tests for him. Is that correct?
That's right. So he was using the same testing facility that the Olympics use, which is a testing facility in San Francisco.
Got it. Okay. So he's testing all of these PEDs or things that he's finding that he thinks might be PEDs. He's testing them. And as he's testing them, where does this thing go from there?
So let's talk about this guy, Patrick Arnold. So Patrick Arnold, he was a guy that helped bodybuilders. Now, he was known for giving some people steroids. So this is like a guy you would go to if you wanted some serious gains, as they would say. So they would go to him if they wanted really short-term gains. And it was he discovered this performance-enhancing drug called Andro. So he was studying East German patent documents, right, from like the 1980s, and he found this banned substance that was banned in other organizations but not banned in baseball. So he was using that to help people with their bodybuilding. And he gave it to this guy named Mark McGuire, who was a pro baseball player.
Yeah.
And a reporter saw Mark McGuire in the locker room and saw he had a vial of this stuff named Andro. So the reporter reported on it. And that's when it became really popular because everybody knew Mark McGuire was taking Andro, which wasn't banned, but in the court of public opinion, people frowned upon him because he was taking a performance-enhancing drug.
Okay, so
at the same time, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, continue on.
So because of this, the general public and other pro ballers were worried that this might become banned. So that's when Patrick Arnold started selling Andro like crazy. He's one of the very few people making it. People were worried that it's about to be illegal, so they're buying it.
So buying it up
before it becomes illegal.
Got it. Okay. Now, just pausing here, talking about steroids. and maybe this Androl did the same thing, but steroids, doesn't it? It increases your size. So it gives you more muscle, it gives you more stamina, but then it also takes away, it lessens or decreases your ability to recover from injuries. Is that accurate?
Lots of things happen. One of the things that happens if you take human growth hormone, your body produces less testosterone.
Okay.
And if you're taking too much testosterone supplement, your body produces less on its own. So people become dependent on this. And unless you're like naturally getting lower on testosterone levels, like in your 50s, and they're doing TRT by a doctor, he's monitoring, regulating everything, that's the only way to take steroids safely, is if you're going into a doctor, they're doing like replacement therapy, just bringing back what you're losing as you get older. That's how it's supposed to be done. And that's the way to do it legally.
Okay. Interesting. So, but when you do this, I mean, everything, your muscles get bigger, even your head gets
with the human growth hormone, your head can become enlarged.
Okay, so basically, if you're a size 7, you could go up to a size 8 in a hat.
Right.
Okay, continue on. Sorry, I'm taking a bunch of sidelines here.
So Patrick Arnold is worried as well that the andro is going to become illegal, so he's searching more patent documents and textbooks, and he finds this textbook from the 1960s.
Still East Germany patent textbooks? Or
I'm not sure where this one's from, but he finds it, and he finds out there was this steroid developed for children with growth issues. This is a human growth hormone.
Okay.
But it was never marketed because in testing, they discovered that it could be toxic. So Patrick started making this. He synthesized it in his lab and started making this thing that was made for children but was never brought to market because it could be toxic. Huh. And he thought, this has never been marketed. Wow. So he makes it knowing that there can't possibly be a test for it because it's not out. It was thought about in the 1960s. They made it, but they didn't use it. So he said, that's perfect. I'll make it, and nobody can test for it.
Wow. Okay. So he's making this, and what time frame is this? Do we have a date when this actually
This
occurs?
is around 2001 when he's making this.
All right.
So it's just pretty incredible how the way these guys came up with these undetectable steroids.
Who would even think, first of all, except a criminal mind, who would think, I'm going to go search East Germany's patents, and I'm going to find something there. Or I'm going to search the FDA's non-approved lists, and I'm going to take that and synthesize that. I mean, who would have even come up with that?
The more incredible of these two guys is definitely Victor Conte, because he dropped out and he was a self-taught scientist.
He's just almost genius.
Yeah, but this other guy, Patrick Arnold, he actually went to school and college and graduated, and he was actually a really smart guy.
Okay.
So Victor Conte, the self-made scientist, and Patrick Arnold, the guy that actually was a scientist, they end up clashing heads because they they worked. They had warehouses or facilities close to each other, only a couple miles apart.
And hadn't they kind of made a pact that they wanted to make the fastest man in the world?
Yeah, they took
in
Mr.
track and field,
Tiny Tim, and they were going to make him the fastest man in the world.
Yeah,
and they did.
Yes. So they were basically kind of partners, even though Mr. Patrick was not a part of Balco per se.
Right.
They were partners in this thing.
Well, they were partners because Tiny Tim is a name he goes by. He was using both of them as coaches and taking supplements from both of them.
Yes, Tim Montgomery. Yes.
Yeah. So Tim Montgomery was taking supplements from Patrick Arnold and Victor Conte. And Victor Conte was saying, hey, you're going overboard because I can test it with my ICP. You're going to fail a drug test. And that's part of the beginning of the falling out they had between Patrick Arnold and Victor Conte.
Okay.
Because they were disagreeing over what supplements he should be taking. So they had a falling out, and that's when Victor Conte, because of the falling out, they turned each other in. So Victor Conte writes this letter, and he's going to turn in Patrick Arnold for giving performance-enhancing drugs to athletes. So he writes this long letter about
Patrick Arnold's done all this problem. He's the one that's
all the people he's supplying illegal drugs to, and he doesn't send it. He throws it away.
Ah, okay.
He throws it away in his trash can, unshredded.
Okay, so now at the same time, while it's unshredded in his trash can,
Patrick Arnold also turns on Victor Conte, but he actually turns him in.
He sends like a syringe or something like a...
He sends a syringe of Victor Conte's supplement that he calls the Clear, which is one of his famous undetectable steroids. steroids.
And he sends it to what federal, was it the FDA?
I think it was USADA.
Okay.
The United States Anti-Doping Agency.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So he sends it to the United States.
And these are within 1 week of each other.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're betraying each other. So there's an investigation going on from USADA and an investigation from the IRS. And they're both investigating the same people, but they're not sharing notes.
Now, is the IRS, is this just one man going after?
It's mostly this one agent going through the trash.
Okay, all right. So it's not the agency so much as it is, it's just one man who's kind of got his nose into this saying, I smell something that doesn't smell right, and I'm going to stay after it.
And his reasons come into question because he has this guy, Mr. White, who is a black man. He hires him to go undercover and go find out what Victor Conte is doing. And Victor Conte, Mr. White, is wondering, why is this agent going so hard against this guy? It just doesn't make sense. And he was starting to wonder, why is this one agent?
What's his purpose behind
going through this trash every night?
Motive?
Yeah, the motive didn't make sense to him. We're the IRS. It doesn't make sense.
And then he has that Mr. White is bulking up. He's undercover.
He's
training.
undercover taking some of the supplements, and he's getting huge.
Yes, and he has
goes
a
home,
massive stroke.
Yeah.
Yes.
The undercover agent has a stroke.
Yes, and at that point, that's while he's laying there.
He wasn't taking illegal supplements yet. He was just doing the exercise regimen.
Exactly, and he starts really, truly questioning at that point. He was questioning it already, but once he had his stroke, he's really questioning.
Well, the reason he was really questioning it is because he hadn't taken anything illegal yet. He was just trying to get under the good graces of Victor Conte, so Victor Conte would trust him enough to give him the illegal stuff. So he's undercover, right? Mm-hmm. He's trying to uncover what's going on.
Yes.
Well, while he's in the hospital from his stroke he had from working out so much, the doctor comes in and gives him testosterone cream, which is the exact same thing
Victor Conte's been given.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons why he questioned the investigation so much. He's like, what am I doing? I'm working out. I'm undercover trying to uncover this guy dealing illegal steroids. And then this doctor just prescribes me the very thing that I'm trying to prove this guy's giving away to athletes. So he's thinking, this guy's preventing people from having strokes. And so that's when he really lost faith in the investigation.
Got it. Okay. So the investigation's going on. These two turn on each other. What happens at that point? Once Patrick Arnold...
Well, the IRS agent is digging through the trash. He finds something with Barry Bond's name on it.
Okay.
He finds out that letter that Victor Conte wrote.
Unshredded letter.
Yes, that he wrote about Patrick Arnold. So now Patrick Arnold's exposed with dealing all these illegal supplements to these people, and the IRS knows it. Well, then eventually, the IRS and USADA team up.
Okay. And they hadn't been sharing information before this. Okay.
And once they team up, that's when USADA is all excited because now they have the IRS. They have a lot more
resources and power.
A lot more resources to pull from to investigate. Mm-hmm. And that is when things come to a head and they're able to raid the Balco facility.
So, yes, it was like 14 or 17 agents that bust through the doors one day. And the poor secretary, this is a side trail. But I can't even imagine what that poor secretary, the receptionist, is sitting there at Balco, and all of a sudden you got 14 or 17 federal agents that jump through with their guns and hands in the air, like that. The fright and the fear that must have come over the people who were not guilty. They were just part of the process. That had to be crazy.
So they go and they raid everything. I think it's the ATF and the IRS raid it. And that's when Victor Conte starts just telling them everything. Well, these are all my clients. These are everybody I give the supplements to. And he's just telling the investigators everything.
And what's funny about that is the IRS agent who had been digging through the trash for 2 years is sitting there listening to this thinking, I didn't have to dig in the trash every Monday night for 2 years. All I had to do was come to this guy, and he would have told me all of this.
Yeah, he's singing, as they would say, right? So he's telling them, Barry Bonds is one of my clients. I've been giving him this. I've been making sure he passes the test. Track and field, Marion Jones, she's one of my clients. I'm making sure she passed the test.
Bill Romanowski, Jason Giambi.
Yeah,
all of these.
Gold medalists, pro ball players, everybody.
Wow.
Well, later on, he gets an attorney, and his attorney says, what are you doing? You can't be confessing to all this. And then Victor Conte changes his tune. listening to his attorney, like saying, okay, well, I can't say anything. I didn't really do any of this. You didn't read me my rights, so none of that stuff I said is admissible.
And this is just like within a few days.
Yes.
Like he's turned all of a sudden. He was singing there.
But at the end, after the investigation is over, he eventually gets convicted. And after it's all over, he now has turned it around and said, you know what, I really did do that. I'm sorry. That's true. And he's admitted it again. He flipped again. He says, the only reason I said I didn't do it is because that's what my attorney told me to say. We're doing the strategy. So now he still has, to this day, he still sells ZMA.
Okay.
He's probably changed the formula quite a bit.
I would think.
He calls it ZMA 5, I think, and he still sells it. And I think he has like 20 Amazon reviews.
Oh, wow.
So it's not very many. But he still sells that. He says nobody trusts him for pretty obvious reasons.
Yes.
A lot of people hate him in the sports world because he is the reason that everybody knows about doping in Major League Baseball and these other sports. Mostly Major League Baseball, because that's where batting averages and all these records are so sacred.
Yes.
Like there's no, as far as my understanding, like I said, I don't follow sports, but doing research on this, I found out a lot about it. As far as like the statistics, the stats, as they call them, the most sacred stats are in baseball.
Yes.
Because it goes so far back.
It's a numbers game, definitely. Yeah. It's definitely a numbers game.
And here's Victor Conte. He's the reason why people have an asterisk next to the name. They have an asterisk meaning, hey, there's more here. This guy has 750 home runs, but asterisk, he was taking drugs.
Okay. So that brings up a great segue, and that is, let's forget sports.
Well, let's talk about how long he served.
Yes.
He was sentenced, and because of the IRS investigator possibly not reading him his Miranda rights and not giving him the your right to remain silent, a lot of the stuff couldn't be used. There's a lot of shady stuff that happened with the IRS agent not doing things properly. He did another raid on his Barry Bonds' personal trainer, which really, he kind of twisted the judge's arm. He kind of maybe lied to the judge to get the search warrant. And because of that, a lot of his evidence was thrown out.
Wow. Okay.
And
so basically it was 2 years worth of work that he really...
And then the IRS had a falling out with the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, and they no longer were sharing records, and one of them had to destroy a lot of test results, and it was a major ordeal. So one of the things that was really interesting is the courts were pursuing it like they treated it like a drug case.
Okay.
So if you're dealing with drugs, they don't go after the users hard.
Yes.
The users get a slap on the wrist and they say, "Who is your supplier?" They want to take out the supplier.
Yeah,
so they're
it's
doing
the
that.
dealer.
Yes, they want to take out the dealer. So in this case, they give all the people taking the drugs immunity. So it goes to a grand jury, and in a grand jury, everything's secret, everything's sealed. Just tell us the truth, Mr. Sportman, Barry Bonds, tell us the truth, and nobody has to know that you admitted to taking drugs. Admit it here. We'll seal the records so nobody knows. We just want the dealer, which is crazy, right? So it makes sense in the drug world. But in the steroid world, if you're convicted of dealing steroids, maximum sentence is 1 year.
Oh, wow.
So here are these athletes making tens of millions of dollars, but the court isn't going for the athlete making tens of millions of dollars. They're going for the dealer, which in this case, they can prosecute maximum sentence of 1 year.
So it's basically a slap on the wrist for both of them.
Right.
Yes.
But so they let the athletes go in this case, which is crazy.
Yes, it is crazy.
The people making tens of millions of dollars, and they go after Victor Conte, which mean hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yes. But those athletes, you can't tell me they didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, they absolutely did.
They knew what they were doing. And so, in the drug world, yeah, I get that. Maybe somebody high or something.
What I meant to say was that tactic makes sense in the drug world.
Yes, I totally agree.
It did not make sense in this scenario.
It does not. No, in this scenario, it doesn't at all.
With all the craziness and all the evidence that couldn't be used, he gets sentenced to serve 4 months in a minimum security prison.
Okay.
Which is a prison. He said it
Describe minimum security.
So I listened to an interview of him, and he described it as a university. He said there was like 6 foosball tables, 6 pool tables. There was no fence. There was just these little signs on a stick that said "out of bounds." So you would know when you're walking too far out of bounds.
Now, and the other thing, couldn't they buy, they could buy beer or alcohol?
According to his admission, this is hearsay, so I'm just repeating what he said in this interview. He said you could buy alcohol, $20 for 8 ounces of any kind of alcohol you wanted. You could buy marijuana.
While in prison.
While in prison. That's right.
Nuts. No wonder people don't mind staying.
And according to his admission, again, hearsay, he said that there were people that did really small offenses just to stay there because they didn't want to pay rent. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to stay here, play foosball.
Pay foosball. I can drink.
Play pool.
I can do my marijuana. I can.
Yeah.
I have no restrictions. I got my friends here, so I'll start a fight just so they'll extend my time and I can just hang out here.
Yeah, and so this whole story is really crazy. It's this major scandal that really shook the sports world.
And Congress
Upset a lot of
and the world.
The president made a comment about it. Yeah, that's right. And he said, we're going to get involved if USADA and these people don't conclude the investigation and convict the people.
Congress got involved. Congress was holding hearings on all this. I mean, this was a big deal.
The end result, I think the personal trainer for Barry Bonds got 8 months. And then
that Greg Anderson, I think.
Yeah, Greg Anderson got 8 months. Victor Conte got 4 months. And that was basically it. Other than other than fans really hating Victor Conte and all these, not all, but a good portion of fans were very disappointed in Barry Bonds and Marion. What was her last name?
Marion Jones.
Marion Jones. Really disappointed in her for using the supplements.
Tiny Tim.
So
Montgomery.
That pretty much concludes it, though. It's just crazy how it all went down and how little court sentences were served.
Yes, it was just slaps on the wrist.
Just a few months.
Now, go ahead.
And then I wanted to talk about Marion Jones. So she had this dream, right? So we're done talking about really the Balco scandal, or at least I am.
Yeah.
So you had this girl, she was 8 years old when she had that dream.
Yes.
And then to achieve that dream, she gets there, and then she realizes all these people are better than me. All growing up, when she in her teenage years, she was the best. No one could do better than Marion Jones. And then she gets to the Olympics, and people are beating her by far.
Yes.
And so obviously she thinks in her mind, well, obviously these people from other countries are being unscrupulous, just like the 70s and the 80s when Germany was doping everybody. Mm-hmm. And then we found out even much later, right? They were doping in the Olympics. They a lot of times the athletes really, truly didn't know because it was a government thing, and they're swapping out their supplements with performance enhancing drugs.
Okay. So basically, what you're saying is Marion Jones.
The only way she could compete.
She had natural ability.
Yes.
Obviously, at 8 years old, she sees it. By 12 years old, she's beating everybody.
It's her lifelong dream. She runs every day. She gets to the Olympics, and people are beating her, and she feels like the only way she can achieve her dream is if she takes supplements. Now, I don't know if this is the case, but I would imagine this is why she took performance-enhancing drugs.
Yes, I would totally agree. And I think when you look at all of these these athletes, it's amazing that all of them were already good before.
Right.
When you look, there's a long jumper. I can't remember the guy.
Think about your lifelong dream, right?
Yes.
You are going to achieve your lifelong dream. You do it every day. You're the best. And then when you get to the top level, people are better than you, and at least you think that everyone else is taking performance-enhancing drugs. So that temptation, if you will, is very strong.
Yes. Well, it's like if I, cycling is known. There's lots of scandals.
Yeah, very famously. Even though I don't follow sports, I know Lance Armstrong. right off the top of my head.
Yes. And so when you look
he
at
gets a lot of hate, but he has done a lot for awareness.
Yes.
Right? For the awareness and the testing. He made it very popular, and he's helped a lot of people, even though I understand people are very upset at him for
doing what he did. Yes. And what he did was wrong. We don't want to sound like we're justifying what these people did.
Not at all.
We're not
Just
at all.
Just understand two things can be true at once. The same individual can do good things and do bad things.
I totally agree with that.
I believe everyone has the capability of doing good things and doing bad things. And even the same person, like Lance Armstrong, can do a lot of horrible things
and a
couple good things.
Yep, I agree. Well, but when I look at it, these people had natural ability. Barry Bonds, this is what's amazing about Barry Bonds. He was so angry and anti-doping.
Right.
When Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, those two there was a home run contest. Not contest, but these two were really
going
one
for that
year
top
they were going for the top stat. And Barry Bonds was so angry because it was like, here I am, I'm doing things the right way.
Right.
And you guys are cheating, and so you are getting all of the press, the attention, which means money.
They're going to go into the Hall of Fame forever.
And the stat book, the record book, all of that. And that's when it's stated that Barry Bonds, and we can't say for sure that Barry Bonds did or didn't. The courts have never fully come to a conclusion on this whole thing. But that's when PEDs definitely started taking on a life of their own, is when, hey, if he's doing, to compete, I have to take this or else I'm going to be out of a job. And not just out of a job, but to be in the record books, to be the best, I can't beat these guys if they're doping and I'm not doping. Let's both dope and see who's the best then.
And then that brings us to the people who believe there's this group of fans or group of individuals who believe, hey, whatever you got to do, it makes for entertainment. Yeah. Whatever enhancing drugs you got to take,
if you're on drugs, but you hit 80 home runs, woohoo! Well, great, that was entertaining to me, and that's all I care about is the entertainment value. That's their mentality.
They just want superhumans and these crazy numbers. That's all they care about. They don't care about what they take.
Okay, so here's the other standpoint, from an athlete standpoint.
Okay.
As an athlete, that athlete only has a very short window to make money. Okay, so basically, if I'm a baseball player, I basically can play professional baseball from 18 years old to maybe 40 max.
Right.
And most of them, they're out of the
they blow out an ACL,
or they're done.
Blow out a knee, tear an ACL, right?
Yes, or they're done. Just their skills are not good. So by 32, 33, 35, they've lost their ability to make money. Okay, in sports. So they're going to have to go somewhere else to make their money. They're going to retire from the sport and then go start a business, run a restaurant, whatever. So since they only have this short window to make millions, the better you are in that short window, the more millions you make.
Okay.
So these guys, I'm not justifying what they're doing. I'm just stating the facts and presenting the evidence that they're basically saying, I'm going to be as good as I can for this window so I can make more money.
And you think that they take the temptation to take the performance-enhancing drugs is to make the most money before they get out of the game.
That's exactly it. If I'm hitting 100 home runs, or let's say I hit 50 home runs in a year as opposed to hitting 20 home runs in a year, that team is going to, for the person hitting 50 home runs a year, they're going to make triple what the other guy's making.
Right.
So in the long run, some of these guys perhaps are looking at it as this is financial stability for my family. So I'm going to do this. That's one of the things. The other thing is ego. It's I want to be the best. I want the accolades. I want the press. I want the attention.
Right.
And so I can see it too.
Yeah,
the better I am,
those views.
The better I am, the more attention I get. Maybe as a child, I didn't receive attention or whatever their reasoning is. And so they just crave it, and this is my way to get it.
Now, personally, I don't have a strong stance on this anyway because I'm so not involved in sports. I just whether they use, I hope they're being safe, right? So I can see, because I'm so removed from it, I can see the argument where, okay, let's just make it legal. Everything's legal as long as they're tested by doctors and everybody's safe. Nobody strokes out like Mr. White did.
Yeah, because these are not illegal drugs. We're not talking cocaine here. We're not talking.
Oh, yeah, right.
So we want to make that clear. We're not talking illegal drugs. I'm
just talking about performance-enhancing supplements.
Supplements, yes.
Which Mr. White found out the doctor prescribed to him when he had a stroke.
Exactly.
So they're drugs in the sense that, yes, they're drugs, but they're described by a doctor to keep you healthy, keep you alive, right?
Yes. Well, there again, for me, I look at it as...
I would rather, I guess if I had an opinion, I would rather that there was drug testing, like there is, very stringent, and nobody takes these performance-enhancing drugs, because obviously it hurts a lot of people. Like if human growth hormone is pretty much bad all around, unless you're one of those children who has a growth problem.
Yes. Well, for me, I look at it as, number one, you can't necessarily, and I don't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other, but you can't just blame just the athletes. You have to blame the industry. In some ways, because
they definitely condoned it.
You didn't condone. Yeah, you didn't. If you felt so strong about it, then put it in your rule books.
Right.
Test, do whatever.
Well, when Barry Bonds started taking supplements, they saw he gained 25 pounds, but nobody said anything because all of a sudden he was hitting balls further, breaking records, and then filling the stadiums and selling tickets. And so the owners thought, okay, I'm not going to ask any questions because we're making a lot of money.
Exactly. Now, that brings us to the next point. And that is, what are things, and maybe if you are listening right now, maybe you could give us some feedback, but what are things that different industries, let's throw out illegal substance, okay? Let's throw out performance-enhancing supplements. But what are things that industries allow that maybe ethically some people could frown upon, but it makes you better? And so if it makes you better, people say, as long as it's making you better at what you do, I'll turn a blind eye.
Well, unfortunately, people turn a blind eye when there's money involved.
Exactly. You know, there was definitely performance-enhancing drugs here that we see. But I do think that there's some other industries that use different tactics to be the best at what they're doing.
That might be unethical?
That might be unethical. And I guess what I'm saying here is it brings pause to me that I want to be the best at what I do.
Right.
We're podcasters. We want to be the best podcast out there.
Right.
However, when you look at it, to get to the top, if you have to do something that is unethical or illegal, is it worth it in the end?
Well, in my opinion, absolutely not.
Absolutely
Ethics has
not.
to be number one. And let me give you an example. One of my employees was working at a home, and he discovered the home was in the process of being purchased, right? And he discovers termites had eaten a good portion of this home, and he just stumbled upon it, and a board came up. He thought, oh my goodness, look at all these termites. They ate all this. And then their real estate agent was on site with my employee, and she said, just cover that back up, close that. My client's signing papers today. Had my employee hide it so she could get her signing completed. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect case in point, that people use things to get a leg up. And at some point, it's never acceptable. And I personally believe it bites you every time. It may take a long time, but the wheels of justice turn slow, but it will find you out for sure. Yep. And so I feel like no matter what industry we're in, no matter if it's like cheating. No matter what you're doing, if it's in school, no matter if it's in work, business, family, home, job, whatever it is, there's no point in ever allowing yourself.
Yeah, don't compromising
who you are. It doesn't make sense.
Well, that's good. Well, that's pretty much all I got on this whole scandal thing. And what do you got? Anything else?
No, that's all we have here for today. But
all right, great. Well, let us know what you think. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave a review and rate us 5 stars. And if you want to contact us with any show suggestions or critiques, whatever you got, you can email us at thegabelpodcast@gmail.com. That's THEGABL podcast@gmail.com. And Don and I both check that email very frequently, and we love hearing from you guys and responding to you. And yeah, just email us. Oh, actually, we're doing this new segment. We have a bunch of questions coming in. So we're compiling questions, and we're going to answer them. So if you have questions for us, feel free to ask them at thegabelpodcast@gmail.com. Ask us the question. If you want a shout out, mention that in the email. We'll give you a shout out and answer your question on the podcast.
Yes, be happy to do that. We're excited, and we are super excited to give you a shout out. So put that down.
Give us your questions and let us know you want a shout out, and you got it. So that's it, Don. If you're listening anywhere else, we're available everywhere. Don't forget, wherever you're listening, to subscribe so you hear more of our episodes. We are excited and growing quickly.
Yes.
And it's really crazy. We appreciate all you guys. It's been really fun. And we look forward to the future.
Thank you to all the thousands of listeners out there that are checking in, and we're excited by where this is going.
Yeah, me too. So I can't wait. And yeah, we'll be doing these more frequently, like we said, any day now. So we're ramping up. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Adios.